Hello and welcome to Tooshka Training. Today we're going to be looking at Hitfilm 2 Ultimate and creating some wipes. If you watched the tutorial I posted yesterday, you'll see that I was talking about building up libraries of composite shots for effects. One of the things I showed you was building up my library of wipes. Today we're going to take a little bit of a look at how to create some of the wipes, simply because I need to show you how to create some of the wipes so I don't have to show you when we come to the radar tutorial later, which is the second in the elements tutorial. So first thing I've done is I've gone to my library and I've imported a bunch of wipes. Now, when I normally import a composite shot, one of the first things I do if I'm using it in a project is to rename it and get rid of the imported from. I don't understand why they have that imported from. It's probably useful for something I just haven't actually come across to use yet. As you noticed, the wipe is imported as a composite shot here, and all your assets are in the asset folder, which is great. Again, covering one of the things I covered in the tips and tricks yesterday is storing your files and your composites in a readable format in your project media browser, so you can actually start getting some semblance of control over what you're using. Because when you start getting heavy into the effects, you start using a lot of media, a lot of composite shots, and this project media browser soon fills up, so keep it tidy. Anyway, back to the wipes. First one I want to show you is the standard of standard wipes, which is black to white or white to black. Very simple to achieve. All I've done is I've taken a black plane, which would be this here. I've taken the white plane, which is that there, and then I've animated the white plane using the positions control. So here you go here. We've got the position at 0, so it fills the frame, and then we go to the next keyframe. The position is minus 1080, which takes it completely off the frame because it's 1080p footage, so we know exactly where it is. You haven't got to move it by hand or anything. You can just type in 1080, bam, and off you go. If you wanted it to be left to right, you would literally put that at 0, and you would change this to minus 1920, like so. And then you've got an image that goes, well, it's actually right to left, but there you go. If you wanted it left to right, you'd just jump to the end keyframe and put it 1920, like so. And there we have left to right. It's very simple, very easy to do. That's your simplest, very simplest of simple wipes. However, if you're going to save a library of composite shots like this and you want them to be rapidly available, one of the things you should do is create vertical and horizontal versions of each wipe. In this particular instance, it was changing of one control and it was dead simple, so not a problem. However, I would still always create a horizontal and vertical, just because I can have a horizontal and vertical library. When it comes to the other wipes that I'm about to show you, where we're actually using the gradient control, it takes a fair bit more setting up to move from horizontal to vertical, because of that, then I tend to save them as separate libraries, because then it's one click, it's in, it's done, and it's out of the way. It's a built-up standard composite library. The other way of doing things is we'll just create a new composite shot here, and we'll call it reorientation. Get my spelling right. Anyway, if we grab in any of the wipes, we'll just use the simple wipe here. Right now, if you was to bring up your transform controls for this particular wipe, as you can see at the moment it's going left to right. I can literally just rotate it 180 degrees and it's now going right to left. Not a problem. See, again, that is within the horizontal controlling. However, if I try to flip this so that it becomes vertical, we end up having this excess space. Now, this is fine in these particular wipes. With these particular wipes, that's fine, because I can just unlink the scale sizes here and change it to whatever I want. And the reason it's not a problem, on these particular wipes, obviously you could be a bit more accurate than I'm being here. I'm just showing you how it works. They're procedural. They're using built-in procedural effects and planes and so on, so they'll never pixelate and they will never blur. However, when we come to a later tutorial where I'll actually be covering image-based wipes, which is similar to these, but you're combining images. Once you actually start stretching and bending images, they start to blur, they start to pixelate. So using this technique is not great. You're better off going back into the original controls that you created the animation with and changing the directions of the animations there. Like I say, when it comes to the image-based wipes, it's a lot better. You won't get the blurring and the pixelization. So if we get into the habit of creating a vertical and a horizontal library, it's going to be a lot more powerful and a lot quicker to use further down the line. So we'll get rid of this reorientation composite for now, because we know we can actually flip them 180. That's not going to cause any issues at all in terms of blurs and so on, and we can go up and down or left and right, changed within the vertical or the horizontal wipes, which is great. But like I say, to be clear, if you want horizontal changing to vertical, you're better doing it in the original animation controls than just trying to rotate the frame. Okay, let's look at some of these wipes now. If we take this very first one here, it's a very simple wipe, very simple to create, and if you look, it's based on some very simple things. We've got a color histogram and a color gradient. These are actually on a grade layer. They're not on a plane, they're on a grade layer. Below them is a plane with clouds on, as you can see here. However, the most important thing right now is the color gradient. So if we whip off the levels histogram, as you can see, without the levels histogram, I've got this constant non-negative and non-positive movement. So even though the gradient or the wipe is actually moving how it needs to move, with the cloud moving underneath, we're never actually getting a completely positive or a completely negative image. So I pop on the levels histogram here, and this setting here is pretty much my standard setting for all these particular wipes, because it gives you this nice positive, negative rotation of color, which is great. It gives you that nice look right there. So we'll just close the levels histogram. We'll just assume that's there, because it's on pretty much every one of these. In fact, it's on every single one of these. The color gradient is animated the same on every single one of these as well. So if we actually look, we have a start point keyframe here, which is minus 1460, and an end point keyframe here right at the start, which is minus 960. Now, the 1460, why is it 1460 and not minus 960? Because the end point needs to be minus 960, which is half of your 1080p frame width. That's because the end point is actually your complete positive imagery. So it's completely white. It's completely white here. The 500 difference is a difference that I calculated. Well, I didn't actually calculate it. I did it by hand, worked out that I needed a gap of 500 so that all these tendrils that are coming off could come off freely and never be cut off by this start point, because your end point and your start point are these 2 points here. They're those 2 points there. So basically, I'm just giving myself enough space here for this flow to come off the end. I could probably pull it in closer if I wanted to. It's something that you can work out on a per effect basis, but I tend to have given myself a nice enough room to save the composite shot to my composite shot library. As long as I actually know that these controls affect this gap, I can change it anytime I like once I'm actually using that composite shot in an effect. So if my disintegration or my radar or whatever is not looking completely perfect, I know that I can go to these controls and change this portion of the effect if needs be to actually speed up this gap slightly. It isn't that important, but if you've got a long set of tendrils on here, you might want to open it out and so on. It's just that I'm letting you know so that you know where that control is. It's the start and end point on the gradients. Now, if you look at the final key point here, you will actually see that this isn't actually anything mathematical. It should be 960 off the screen. But I actually found that 1160 was getting me to where I needed to be. If you look, there's probably a little bit of tendril left there. But 1160 and 660, which is the gap of 500 again, which is the exact gap we had at the start, so that it stays the same width all the way along. The 1160 was pretty much getting me to where I needed to be. I could probably go a little bit further. Again, it's all sorts of things that you can sort out on a per effect basis once you load your composite shot in from your library. Right, so taking that as read, that's how the color gradient is actually moved across the screen in pretty much, in fact, in all of these composite shots here, which are all wipes. The only thing that I've actually changed on all of these wipes, and to show you how much it affects it, I will switch between two. We've got that, looks like that there. This next dusty one is there, like so. Now, two completely different wipes, and all I've done between the two that has actually changed, if we turn that off, and we turn the gradient off there, you'll see that all I've changed is the cloud settings. So go into your cloud settings. I'm not going to cover the cloud effect. There's probably a tutorial from FX Home covering the cloud effect, covering the different controls of these. You will know how to use it, and if you don't know how to use it, experiment. That's all I did. Experiment and come up with your own one. So you've got that wipe there. This wipe again is different. Now, there's something a little bit different about this wipe in the fact that it's got negative on both sides. Now, the reason I needed negative on both sides for this was because I wanted to create a radar scanner. Now, if you look at that, and you look at that, they're both the exact same effect. So basically, to get my radar scanner, I loaded in this gradient wipe. I added a gradient blocker, which is just a simple black plane that I actually hand animated. I didn't actually work out any mathematics for it. I found the first point to be the full screen. Then I animated it onto the screen so that it actually looks like the grade is coming onto the screen. And then I just basically guessed the end point, so it stayed about the same thickness. There's no mathematics involved. I just did it by eye. It took a couple of seconds to work out. Now, you might be asking, well, how does that work as the radar scanner that we saw in yesterday's tutorial? Very simply, I had no way of creating the scanner I wanted because the masking is, I don't want to say useless, but the masking is not great in Hitfilm yet. You can't use it with gradients and with wipes. There's no paint tools as such. I'm not a big fan of the masking. I'm not a big fan of the fact that there's not very many paint tools in Hitfilm 2 Ultimate. But what did I just say? Hitfilm 2 Ultimate. The things that this app has got in it, that this package contains in a version 2, is quite phenomenal. So don't be thinking that I'm putting the package down. I'm not. I miss paint tools and I miss some better masking tools, but from the quality of the controls, the effects and the manipulation that are in this package, they're going to come at some point. That's blatantly obvious to anybody that's got two brain cells to rub together. So it's not something worth worrying about at this point. More advanced effects, we'll get more advanced effects and more advanced usage of Hitfilm Ultimate, and I'm just going to call it Hitfilm Ultimate from now on, because when we get to 2.5 and 3 and so on, it's going to be even more powerful. So to get what I needed to do on this particular instance, I just added a grade layer, I took the polar warp, and I added it. And in that split second, I had my scanner. It's that simple. All because I had a gradient wipe in my library. I just loaded in, I added the gradient blocker, I put the polar warp on it, 10-15 seconds, I had the scanner I needed. Brilliant. How could you ask for anything more? Getting back to the wipes, again, as you'll see, all I've done is change the cloud, and I've got myself, this was actually quite an effective flame wipe effect, which looks quite nice. Again, all I've done on this one is I've changed the cloud. And what we've got again is, to me, it looked like some kind of sticky jelly kind of effect, so I call it jelly. Again, we've got another wipe here. I've changed the cloud to something different again, and we actually have this. This is actually quite an effective way of pulling liquid on and off the screen, because it does look very liquidy. You could probably do some kind of seashore thing with that if you wanted to do like a seashore wiper effect. Again, we've got a rough edge one here. All I've done is change the cloud, nothing else. And again, it's a very effective burnt away paper or paper destroyed wipe. I think I used that one yesterday in the example of the displacement, which is it shows you how powerful these are. Again, I've done nothing but change the cloud effect, and we've got some nice tendrils. Don't just stick to the cloud. You can add fractal noise. You can add anything you want to. You really can go extreme with these if you want to. As I say, add a polar warp, and you'll get some craziness going on. There's a million things you can do with these. I'm just showing you the basic outlines of how to get some mad things going on. I mean, again, this is another great wipe. Look at that. And all I've done is add the polar warp and reversed it. You get some very organic looks, some very creative things. Like I say, if you look at the tutorial I posted yesterday, which is the tips and tricks, I used them to wipe images, the Star Wars thing. I used them to disintegrate the grenade. It was only the start of a disintegrate effect, but it was very powerful and very good looking. And I also used them for the radar swipe. Wipes are very powerful things. The next tutorial will probably be the radar. That's why I needed to get some of these wipes out of the way, so I didn't have to show you how to make the wipe in the radar tutorial. You can just come back and reference this video. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Remember to hit the subscribe button on the YouTube page for more tutorials. There should be more coming your way soon.